Hello, hello.
Hello, good evening. How you doing tonight, Dr. Liz?
It's fucking cold. It's freaking cold. I'm gonna stop cussing, you guys, I promise.
Not even 10 seconds.
I'm married a Marine. What do you want from me? I used to live on a boat. I swear like a sailor. I have good reasons.
You're in good company.
Yeah.
Yes,
Literally 3 seconds in.
it is freezing.
Are
Well,
you guys cold? How are you?
we're not in Antarctica like you guys, but we are, let's see. You might think this is warm. Right now it's 40, and in the night when we wake up, it'll be in the 20s again.
When I got in my car this morning, it was 11 degrees out.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's funny. I used to live in Moscow, and like, I don't mind the cold as long as I'm prepared for it.
You were in Russia?
I was,
Oh my
Kanishna.
God.
Yes, I was. I loved it. I learned how to dress appropriately, and so like I don't get cold if I'm dressed appropriately. But like, how often do you put on 6 layers of clothing to go
Yeah.
outside of your house? And like literally, my husband was like flamethrowering the ice all over our driveway because like you can't shovel it. It's like 4 inches of ice. So he's got his like butane like flamethrower out there. And I like went out there in just socks and like a sweater. And I was like, all right, have you I cussed it. Have you lost your effing mind? What are you doing? So yeah. So it's roasty toasty if you burn down your house, I suppose. I shouldn't joke about that. So that happened
So,
too.
we can laugh about it. I almost burnt my house down in June. That's why I've got this battle scar right here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my pot caught on fire and it
It's
was,
no good. No
yeah,
good. Oy, oy. Well, okay, but your house is not on fire. My driveway is not on fire. We're all doing really well and we have
good.
central heating and it's all okay. So welcome to another episode of Psyched. We are Dr. Liz Dubois Erskine and Dr. T. Watts. We're talking today about the things that we wish family and friends knew about how to actually help. So, Dr. T, I'm going to have you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit more and give the whole we're not medical doctors disclaimer, and then we'll jump in.
All right. I am Dr. T. Watts, business strategist and professor. I want to be very clear that Dr. Liz and we are not medical professionals. So none of this is medical advice. We are not telling you to go on meds, off meds. We are not telling you what to do in terms of your medical ailments, issues, or anything like that. And we want to be very clear. So anything you hear in this video is our perspectives, our personal lives, our experiences that we are sharing for awareness.
Yeah, and from our work too, right? Our personal experiences, but for me, my research has centered on this for a very long time now. And I know Dr. T, you have a number of folks that you work with that have also navigated these issues. So that caveat on the table, don't sue us, and we will jump right into it. So, Dr. T. Watts,
Yeah.
what do you wish people that are close to you, like what do you wish that they knew that they maybe kind of try to fill in the blanks for, or that they assume? What do you wish they knew about your experiences as someone living with mental health challenges?
That it's real. I feel like a lot of times people don't really take mental health serious at all. It's not because it's not a physical condition. It's not something that you can see. It's not an amputation. It's not a bruise. It's not something you can physically see. It's something that you deal with internally. And because of that, I think there's a lot of stigma around it, and
Mm-hmm.
don't really take it quite as serious. They're like, it's no big deal, just feel better, or no big deal, you're okay. Or that it's not that serious. So that's been the biggest challenge I've seen so far with friends and family and others too, other people who don't have a clue who you are, a perfect stranger. It's just really stigmatized. If they can't see it, it's almost like it doesn't exist.
Mm. It's so interesting. Like I feel like I have the inverse experience to some extent, where I want to be like, recovery is real. Like recovery is real. People recover from like significant mental health challenges, right? Mental breaks, however you want to talk about it. My family saw me get very sick. Like there were very tangible elements to what my mental health looked like when I was struggling. And so on the flip side of that, right now, many, many years past it, it's interesting to me because I will have like a very elevated day and I'm so excited. And just in general, I'm kind of exuberant, and family members that don't really understand how mania works, how bipolar works, they'll be like, oh my gosh. And it's like, no, recovery is real. Like recovery, like it takes a lot of work, but it's real and it's sustainable, and like moods can be managed and mental health diagnoses can be managed, and it's possible to have like something approximating like a normal life, even if you've got a really serious diagnosis. So, yes, it's real. And yes, recovery is real too.
Yes, I agree with that.
What were some of the things that people said to you that made you feel like really misunderstood?
There's two times that I could think of. And I have to remember exactly what was said because it was some choice words. um Someone, I don't want to disclose who, was watching a TV show, and the lady on the TV show was talking about mental health. And she's I've experienced this, and the person I was next to know I've experienced it. But when she was talking, it was kind of like she was like, shh, I'm trying to hear, she's talking about all that crazy stuff. And I was like, mm, she's talking about mental health and in the seriousness of it. And it kind of just, I don't know, I'm not easily offended, but it just rubbed me the wrong way because it was like, there's a stigma, like I feel like we have gone through it. So when we jokingly say certain things,
Right.
when other people, they really mean those things, like they really view mental health conditions, as crazy people or deranged or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So that was one time. And then there was another time. There's a girl from my past who we are not friends, but she she was telling other people, when I had an episode, and she was a part of it because I remember my husband reached out to call her to ask her like stuff about birth control and if she had any certain side effects. And so she was kind of aware of what was going on, but she told like another mutual friend that we had, she was like, yeah, don't believe anything she says, she's a schizophrenic and blah blah blah. And I took offense because I actually am not a schizophrenic. And so,
Right. Well, even if you are, that's like a harsh way to lay out something to somebody.
yeah, and it's the fact that she knew what was going on in terms of my medical history and stuff like that. So to project that, or to misread what was going on
Mhm.
and just kind of label something and not know, like, if you don't know what's going on, maybe ask the question, hey, what
Right.
is going on? But instead it's like, we're going to paint her as a schizophrenic. And so that's what she was like telling everybody, like, yeah, don't believe her, she's a schizophrenic. And that wasn't the case. So those were two times that, yeah, I give the thumbs down. And it was,
Mhm.
I just would say from that, just be more conscious with how talk to people, deal with people, because they are having real life issues. And it doesn't help when you have this kind of preconceived judgment already.
Mhm.
How about you? Was there any times that you can recall?
I think the thing that is hardest for me is when well-intended, like especially people who are really, really close to me, like really, 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 really know me well, assume that my being exuberant or my being kind of in a funk, right? Not in a depressed, like sometimes you have days where you don't feel like your sparkling unicorn pony best, right? Like
Yeah.
when I'm either like very, very, very excited, which is often, or have kind of low energy, like a week or even 2 weeks, right? Like where I'm kind of just like want to hibernate and not do too much, that I'll have family members be like, oh my gosh, are you getting depressed? Oh my gosh, are you going manic? And I want to be like, girl, I'm just a human having a human experience. Like, and I think about like the people I'm close with, like if I were to say to, you know, my friends or my husband, every time they like had an off day or whatever, I was like, oh my God, are you like they would fucking slap with the cussing. They, you know, they right? Like it's so suffocating to
Yeah.
not have space to just be a person. And I think when you have people that care about you a lot, really want to see you succeed and do well and just be okay, right? Like not even like, oh, I want you to go win a medal, right? It's I just want you to be okay. I want you to be okay in the world. When you've got folks that are deeply invested in helping you do that, and then you reach a point where you're like, no, I'm like stable. For those of you listening, like the term often used is euthymic. Like I'm not cycling up, I'm not cycling down. I'm in a euthymic state where I'm just a person. And having folks jump in with a lot of fear and anxiety in moments where I'm just being myself, but not in the kind of like monotone sort of way of I'm not up, I'm not down. It makes it hard to just want to be like, you know, I just want to take a couple days off and like read some books, not really go anywhere. I'm going to turn the ringer off on my phone, make a fire, and just like do nothing, right? Like that feels like a loaded thing to get to like share with anyone and be like, no, I just kind of want to hibernate for a couple of days. And they're like, I want to just like go, you know, work on this podcast and like make it amazing and like not come out of my office for 48 hours.
Mhm.
I really like those things about myself. And so to have that question feels very like threatening almost, right? Like, are you sure you're not crazy? I'm like, I think so.
Yeah. How do you feel about the word crazy?
I feel like we have reached a point in our society where everything's like a trigger. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I call me crazy. That's fine. Like, I would so much rather someone call me crazy than someone like tiptoe around the fact that I have a medical condition. People be calling you, you be fancy. Um, you know, like my
Please.
son's middle school, like kids get to like write out like their gender identity and all this stuff, and then there's all this anti-bullying stuff that goes like there's all these different things in place to make sure that language is very nuanced and non-offensive. And I feel like it's kind of gone so far at this point that I'm like, you know what, if you want to call me crazy, I'd rather you do that than like struggle to say anything about my mental health. And not that it's anybody's business, but like in general, what am I trying to say here? I would rather people be blunt about how they think and feel than not talk about it at all because they're afraid it's going to offend someone, right? Like when they were naming, I lived in DC for 20 years, and when they were naming the Museum of the Native American Indian, right? It was all these different iterations of like, what are we going to call this museum to talk about this group of people? And part of the reason talking about the history of this group of people was so difficult was because no one could like agree on what they were called. And so, like, if people want to talk about mental health and like categorize it as like you know, it's when people go crazy, I'm like, that's fine. Let's talk about it. Like, I'd rather do that than everyone be like, well, you know, like, we just like, we don't want to offend anyone. We want to be inclusive. I'm like, I
Right.
would much rather you call
And
me
the whole
crazy
time,
than
they
talk
really
about
think they think what they think at the end of the
it.
day.
Yeah. Say what
They
you think.
yeah, they think
We'll start there.
and I completely agree with that. Like, I know I said earlier the comment threw me off when she was like, "Oh, I'm watching her, talk about the crazy stuff." It wasn't that. It was the fact that she has never led me to believe that she even thought about mental health in any capacity because it's
Mhm.
never a topic. It was never something that came up. It was never something that she talked about. It was always something that she pushed to the side. So when I heard it for the first time and that was the reaction and response, it's like, well, okay, but you could say that. Like, if that's how you feel, say that
Yeah.
the whole time. Like, there's no need to hide how you really feel. If you think that, people are crazy and deranged, some are. Some do need to be strapped down and they need a horse tranquilizer. Okay.
Yeah.
But we can't, we've got to do it. Crazy looks, I think, is defined differently based on who you ask.
Yeah, I think it's defined differently, but I think what you're getting at is so important, right? Is this idea of language, right? Say what you think. To me, like the exciting part about having this podcast, other than getting to talk to you about all these interesting issues, is that it's a conversation that doesn't happen very often, right? And I think part of that is that people don't know how to talk about it, right? Like we see all these different iterations of words to describe different marginalized groups of people, and with people who are struggling with mental illness, right? Even me, I'm like changing that kind of phrasing up every single time it comes out of my mouth. It's a little different because we haven't been able to define what a crazy person is, right? Like,
Right.
is it someone who's, having an episode? Is it someone who has a medical diagnosis? What, like, who knows? But at least we're saying something.
Well, according to the dictionary, very foolish, senseless, or strange, which is, or a person who is wildly irrational or incoherent.
99% of the country right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it depends on who you ask. So.
Right. Ask, ask Green. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on who you ask. And I think the most important people to ask are the folks that are experiencing it, right?
Of
But
course.
again, like with marginalized groups, there's so much stigma around having a mental health disorder that you like, it's very, very it's dangerous to raise your hand and say, I have something and I want to talk about it, right? Like the implications just of outing myself, right? I've spent time in a mental hospital, and I like outing myself in that way feels dangerous, right? There's going to be people in my life that are like, you're putting that out there. And there's going to be people maybe that have considered working with me professionally that might think less of me. I think there'll probably be people that think more of me. I know that that's been a draw for some of my clients, is that I've gone through that. So anyway, yeah, it's hard to ask and it's hard to talk about.
I kind of want to play a game. Do you have a piece of paper and a marker?
No. Do you know, I look down, do you know what I do have? I think I told you about this. This is what my husband bought for himself over the weekend. It's got pink hibiscus on
Oh,
it.
nice. That's nice.
It's got, he's a really big fan of hot pink. So I look down and I'm like, no, but I do have some hot pink body armor for you.
Okay. I was gonna say I wanted to write on a piece of paper, like at the same time, what is like the most taboo mental health topic that like I feel like people stray away from the most.
I can tell you. So you write it down. I know.
All right.
Ready, go.
All right. Are you gonna say it?
I'll say it. Hold it up, and my eyes are closed. Hold it up. And
Okay.
I'll say it.
All right.
Hospitalization.
Oh.
Suicide. Oh, it's so. I feel like suicide is kind of having like a moment where we're allowed to talk about it now.
I do agree with that.
But no, go no. Say more. Say more.
Well, okay. Suicide, I feel like anytime I see that there's a death revolving around suicide, the cause is never talked about. It's always kind of just like, hey, friends, if you have a problem, like talk to us, reach out. So it's always very vague. But I'm always kind of like, if someone passes, by way of suicide, I feel like there should be a full stop. Like, hey, but there never really is. It's kind of something that's glossed over and then kind of like shoveled down, and nobody really knows what happened, who happened. It just kind of gets quieted. So that's kind of the trend I've seen revolving around that. Now, but talk about hospitalization.
Oh, hang on. I want to talk about suicide for a second
Okay.
because so I have young people in my life that have like struggled with this in different ways. And so I've gotten like a glimpse into that side of things, the way that youth are being talked to about this, and my son's in middle school, and just in general, like the plethora of mental health and DEI and just kind of all of these like we're all going to be okay, right? Sort
Yeah.
of things that were not present when I was growing up. Um, like I think there's this space now where kids are talking about it. I don't know if grown-ups are any better at this, but like at least compared to when I was growing up, and I had people in my life growing up that were suicidal, and unfortunately a high school friend that did go on to kill herself after high school. And these conversations did not exist at all. And now I feel like I'm kind of surrounded by them with my younger set of people in my life, where I'm just like, wow, this is really getting talked about now. Um,
Mm.
and I don't know, I might be in a little bit of an echo chamber just because I have people in my life that have struggled with this, but by and large, it feels very different than when I was a young person, where this just like wasn't a thing. We just don't talk about it. And it was like very taboo, all of it. Um, so hospitalization, I don't know. I feel maybe this is just like my personal experiences of feeling like so just like, holy crap, what is going to happen if I like start to be transparent about this? Not that I've like lied, but I haven't come out and said this before, right?
Right.
And I just feel like there's this element of like, oh my gosh, what if I lose credibility? What if people think less of me? Like, what if people think less of me as a professional? And like when I was in mental health summer camp, which is what I call the hospital, most of the women that I was surrounded with were these incredibly high achieving women that everyone had just like done too much for too long. They had all burned out and had like a good old fashioned nervous breakdown. And every single one of these women like bounced back and we're just like, no, 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 no. I'm like here, I'm getting some meds. Thank you very much for the goulash. They had really good food there. And like this is not my life, right? And all of us were kind of like, we have adult coloring books and each other, and we're gonna get out of here and we're gonna go on. And I just wanted it to be like a chapter that I never read out loud, right?
Right.
And it's interesting. One of those women, she was the art director for a major international hotel chain. She like, so like if you've stayed in a hotel, you have seen a piece of art because they own all the hotel brands, right? And
Mhm.
so she was the person that like selects all the art. And she, while we were all doing our adult coloring books, she like drew a picture, and I said, you know, it was gorgeous. And I said, can I have this? And it's hanging in my house. It's in my hallway. I see it every single morning. And I think a lot about like how pivotal that experience was for me, not because of the meds or because of the doctors or because of the anything, but because of the other women that I met, that where we were just like, you're not crazy. So maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I just did too much for too long. And so I think that the lived reality of burnout is real, and we don't have good like supports to help somebody before the train leaves the station, right? It's got to go off the rails before we really help someone with a mental condition. Like
Yeah.
that lived reality of like, hey, you're the art director for this place, right? And all these other women too, right? They own companies. Like it was nuts. That reality contrasted with like what you know, one flew over this cuckoo's nest and Girl Interrupted and stuff. Like you see like a very different reality presented. And I think the contrast between that makes it difficult for women like you, like me, um, to be honest about what we've experienced and to help other people perhaps experience it differently, because I think there's a lot of room for improvement, but you can't improve anything if you won't talk about it. And if there's such a stigma, you're never going to talk about it.
So, I actually have the opposite feeling.
I know you do, which is why I'm so glad we're talking about it.
So, and I'll tell you the reason. The reason I have like an opposite feeling is because I can show you my hospital record right now from that moment. And unbelievably, nobody would think that it's the same person.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I know that I'm so far and I've overcome so much from that place, I guess for me, it's like when I look back at it, it's more of a testimony kind of thing. Cause it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, this is where I was and I'm not here. And now I have to make very good provisions in my life not to get there. And I
Yeah.
think that that is something that the people around me I wish knew a little bit more, because I think a lot of times people look at how far I come and people see me and they obviously don't see that person. But that person can happen as a result of me not doing certain things in my life, which is why I have to be extremely cautious with how I react, with how I handle things, with how I move in certain situations. And I do wish that is like my one wish for my friends and family to know, like the things and provisions I have to do. Like if they only knew the half, we would interact differently. But
Talk about it, because I'm curious to know what yours are.
so for me, I have to be in a very grounded, sane, like state of mind, because for me, I get into like really bad triggers and I get very untrusting and my reality starts to shift when I go into that dark space.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm in that space, like just consciously how I interpret everything, how I talk to people, how I receive information is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, I have to consciously make sure that I'm in a good headspace not to be in that dark space, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if I go in that dark space, I'm operating differently. I'm taking the information you tell me differently. I'm reading your body language differently. Things can be more threatening. Things can be more harmful.
Yep.
I'm more, what's the word when you're on edge? There's a word for it.
Anxious, jumpy, jittery.
Anxious, when you're like constantly just on edge, on guard, um that I think on guard, being on edge, being anxious, that's all heightened when I'm in that state. And so in order for me to keep my nervous system relaxed, i have to like I have to think butterflies. So like if there's if there is a situation that can possibly shift my mind for me to get
Mhm.
combative or for me to be triggered or for me to think of something negatively and go too far with it,
Mhm.
I have to implement, like I have to safeguard myself, if that makes sense, for me
Yeah,
not to that point.
100%.
So
100%, 100%. Yeah. No, it's so interesting you say that. I realized, so I had to take, like you, right? I had to take stock of my life and be like, what has to go and like what safeguards do I have to put in place? And the big one for me was politics. Like I loved politics. The first time I met my best friend, we were 8 years old when we met, and I told her I was going to be the first female president of the United States. And like that was thing. Like I went to school for political science. I have 3 different college degrees that touch on it in some way. Like I was, and I worked in politics for a really, really long time, and it makes me nuts. And like I realized when I had to like do a really big reset of my life, I was like, crap, like this is the thing that I get so amped up about more than anything else in my life. Like I get like just ferocious about it, and I can't afford to let myself do that because my nervous system gets too amped, and as a result I can really start to cycle in a way that's dangerous. And so like right now it is killing me, but I like but it actually will kill me if I get too invested into an
yeah,
you know
it's funny that that is one for you, because I think that is actually what sent me over the moon too back in the day. Uh,
it's I'm laughing, but it's like actually quite sad. You know?
yeah, 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 because I just
Yeah.
was, yeah. So
No, we had my husband and I were falling asleep. We had like one conversation because he really likes, I don't know, he likes politics. He's very invested in politics. And I just have to kind of like not get super in on all of the things that are being said. And I like took the bait and ran with it the other night. And like we ended up like I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. And I like reminded myself, like, oh yeah, this was like I walked right up to that electric fence where the velociraptors are, and I almost got bit, and it's bad, bad, bad.
How many times? So yes, and well, back to like the hospitalization. So for me, we kind of got squirreled, but
We got velociraptored.
but for me, like a hospitalization, I guess I feel a little bit more confidently talking about it because I know that I'm not in that position. And
Mm.
I know how far gone and how deep down in the hole that person was. So because I consciously know I'm nowhere near that, when I talk about it, it's always like a testimony for me because it's just kind of
Mhm.
like I'm not right there. And thank God because
Yeah.
and I'm not kidding. I think I am going to write a book and put that hospitalization record so people can see just how how bad it was because it was. Now talking about how bad it was still gives me like that will kind of,
Mm.
because there were certain things in there that I'm embarrassed of more so.
Mhm.
There's things I look back and I'm embarrassed to say, that happened to me and me being so young. Like I wouldn't have thought, like my husband was caring for me like I was like an 80-year-old and I was only
Mm.
20 something or 23, 24. So
Thank goodness for good men.
yes, in sickness and in health.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very lucky to have one. He'll literally say to me, like, if I'm getting too invested in something, he'll go, "Meh, you're hanging on right there, buddy," and like, friends do that too. And I think
Yeah.
for those listening, right, and this episode is called My One Wish, like, just know that the people who are struggling in your life appreciate that you love them and would appreciate being asked how to best be supported versus like jumping in and assuming. So I know like there's things that I really appreciate, like being, reflected back versus told like, oh, wow, things are really going wrong for you. Are you okay? Right.
Yes. And sometimes I think it is trial and error because I had a friend, and at the time when I was in that dark spot, I couldn't see anybody being of any help to me.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, like even now, if I go quiet for too long, that's like her trigger where she's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
send a text," or "I just need to know you're not in that spot." And before I used to be annoyed, I was like, but now I'm so 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 appreciative because every time she's done that, I was going in a spot that I didn't realize that I was going into. And
Mm-hmm.
so and I'm thankful. I am absolutely thankful for that. And then of course there's been times where I've been there to support friends and I didn't know how. Like I had a friend one time, she was having suicidal ideations, and I I was I was kind of panicked because we were in different states. So I was like, okay, I'm calling the hotline and I'm trying to get some stuff done for where I'm at. And it was like, did I handle that right? But sometimes there's no right way per se, and only time can continue to pass and you can learn how to best help and how to best serve somebody and their needs.
Yeah.
But just making sure you care.
Yeah. Give a shit. Right.
Yeah.
More cursing. Give a
Yeah.
damn.
Give a damn.
Give a damn. It's so funny because I teach a workshop on writing, like marketing writing, and I call it the gas factor. How do you make sure that you're speaking in a way that your audience will give a shit about what you say? And I'm like, you can't call it the gad factor. It doesn't make any sense. It's got to be the gas factor because it makes things go.
Mhm.
So on that tangent, yeah, I think everything that you're saying about like genuinely care about the people in your life who are challenged with these kind of conditions is so on point. And I think what's challenging is most most loved ones of someone who has a significant mental health struggle really do care, right? They're deeply invested. They just don't know what to do, right? They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to help. And, someone that loves people who have gone through some of these things, so disempowering and just a feeling of like complete and lack of power, with just being so totally powerless in the face of someone else's struggle and not knowing how to help, is heartbreaking. I'm wondering, T, if you've got like some specific things that you wish friends and family of like it kind of the universal one, like what can friends and family of someone struggling do that's actually supportive?
Um, while you were talking, I was thinking, I can see it being significantly harder for people to be supportive when they themselves don't have a mental health condition and
Right.
maybe they've never encountered someone close to them with a mental health condition. So I suppose in cases like that, I would say to try to educate and to be understanding in the same way, because what I've noticed is those who don't struggle with a mental health condition, they have a way of kind of like watering it down like it's a fallacy. It's not real. It's imaginary.
Mm,
And that's not the case. These are very real struggles, even though you cannot physically see them. So, kind of stressing the point of being a little bit more understanding to a condition that these are real medical conditions,
mm-hmm.
just as significant as a physical condition, because your mental health can very literally impair you. So just kind of having more awareness of that. So I don't know if the push is like education or if the push is, I don't know what the push would be, but definitely to be a little bit more understanding, especially if it's not something that you have to deal with personally or directly with someone close to you, just to kind of educate yourself on how these things can affect people's livelihoods and their lives.
Yeah.
How about you?
Whew. I feel like I have so much to say about this that I'm like overwhelmed. My brain is doing that thing where computers just like have a spinning rainbow wheel. I'm like, so many. Um, I think the first thing I want to say is telling someone that you're worried about them doesn't actually translate into much, except perhaps that person will get very defensive and push you away. So I think that there's a difference between saying, you know, you did X and I'm really worried about you, and saying you did X and it scared me, right? You did X. Can we talk about it? That's not like you, is a different thing than saying I'm worried about you, which pushes someone into a space of like, I'm fine. What do you mean? Versus making it like, I feel worried, right? I feel like this isn't the normal you. What's going on, right? So I think that that's kind of the first thing, is like be aware that like pointing things out to people and saying I'm worried about you is going to result in folks getting very defensive. And so saying I feel anxious watching you do this is different than you are scaring me with what you're doing. I know it sounds nuanced, but it is, right? But it's important to understand that someone who's struggling mentally is not going to respond to you well when you're like, I'm worried. And they'll be like, oh my God, you are. Thank you. They're going to be like,
Language.
yeah, screw you. That's not really, that's not real. So, which brings me to my next thing, which is if you've got someone in your life who's struggling with something really acute, right? I'm not just talking about like they're having, a couple off weeks and they're, not doing well. I'm talking about like you're just like really concerned for their well-being, their safety, all of that. Like take it seriously to the point that you educate yourself, right, about what you think might be going on, and consult with a local therapist, consult with a psychiatrist, consult with a local hospital, which maybe sounds extreme, but if you've got someone in your life that you think might be taking actions that are hurting themselves, or they're neglecting their own well-being, or perhaps their children's well-being, don't like wait and see what happens, right? Like waiting and see what happens is a really dangerous plan, because what's going to happen is it's going to get worse. Most of these conditions are progressive. And so if you don't intervene in a way that allows someone to have a chance at recovery, they're just going to get worse and worse. So wherever the set point is that you're like, oh, I'm very concerned, but I'm just going to wait and see, like it's going to get And so now that person to get better is going to have so much further to overcome because they've gotten significantly worse. So that being said, know that if someone's not willing to comply, you're really limited in what you're going to be able to do in terms of force them into therapy, or put them into the hospital, even for states where you are able to do something like an emergency petition is often what it's called. Those are often very short holds that they're put in the hospital. Folks who are lucid, who are able to speak eloquently on their own behalf, are not going to necessarily come across as needing inpatient care. So just understand that like this is a long road to hoe. It is not a like one conversation and I'm here for you and I'm worried. Like if someone's going through something that's acute and needs treatment, like don't be afraid to consistently push for a solution. Like please don't wait and see what happens, because wait and see is going to result in worse things happening. That's what I wish people knew.
Wow. Well, I love that. I love every piece of that.
I love this podcast. I'm so glad we're doing this. Exactly. Exactly. Well, what are your final closing thoughts, my friend?
Final closing thoughts. We always get to this point. I say the same thing every time. I'm like, I think we nailed it. I need a hammer. So, we nailed it.
Exactly.
What about you? Do you have any final closing thoughts?
This has been good for me to kind of wrap my head around. I think sounds like awful, but like just the kind of powerlessness of being someone that loves someone going through a mental health crisis. Like it really is a powerless situation to be in. And I think just being reminded of how limited the choices are for someone that wants to be helpful and doesn't know how, is, a difficult thing to confront. But I think it's also an important thing for family members to confront is, this isn't going to get better fast. So being in it for the long haul, that's your job.
And I think we said something in the beginning that I'd like to end with. Be as bold as you need to be and say exactly what's on your mind. There's no need to, a matter of fact, make America honest again. Let's be honest.
Ooh, make America candid again. How about that?
Be
or
honest.
Say the thing.
Say the thing, say your truth. It can actually be a way better situation for everybody when you do that, when you tell your truth and you live in your truth and you speak your truth instead of, oh, well, I don't want to say this. But then it's like, to somebody else you would say, but not to the person. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's about it for me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Make America honest and make America kind. And we're not political here. You'd be surprised to know what we're all registered as. So please don't infer anything other than we're just two crazy ladies with kids and husbands and jobs. And we just want the world to be a better place. So thanks for tuning in. We are Psyched Pod, and we are psychedpod@gmail.com. We are now on Spotify as well. Apple Podcasts coming soon. If you would like to apply to be a guest, you're most welcome to do so. Just visit us at psychedpod.com, and the application link is right there on the page.
All right. Until next time, we will see you guys soon. Like, share, subscribe if any of this resonated with you.
Bye.
Bye.